Steve Jobs was worth an estimated $10.2 billion at the time of his tragic death in late 2011, making him one of the wealthiest people in the world at the time. This will not come as a huge surprise to most of you, because after all, he was the founder and CEO of Apple Computers, which went on to be the most valuable company in history with a market capitalization today of over $2.2 trillion. The thing is though, is that Apple had very little to do with the fortune amassed by this legendary businessman. Apple was famously founded by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne in a California garage in 1976. The business found its initial seed capital from Jobs selling his Volkswagen Bus and Wozniak selling his high-end pocket calculator. These funds were then used to develop the Apple I and subsequent Apple II desktop computers, which introduced the world to a new way of interacting with these previously cumbersome machines. During this period, Ronald Wayne, the often forgotten third founder of Apple Computers, would sell his share to the company for $800. Those same shares today, even after dilution, would be worth more than $500 billion. But c'est la vie. Welcome to How Money Works. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Fast forward to the 1980s, and the company had found tremendous success selling personal computers that truly gave individuals the power to work with information in a way that had been previously reserved exclusively for government and megacorporations. But all was not well within the halls of the now multi-billion-dollar Apple empire. An ongoing power struggle between Steve Jobs and the board of directors saw the founder ousted from his creative position in the company by the very same man that Jobs made CEO, John Sculley. You see, by the mid-1980s, Apple's initial success was waning, and Jobs saw the solution to be the introduction of a massively capable personal computer that was simply too expensive for the average consumers, almost as if Apple's only product today was the $40,000 Mac Pro. The more business-minded Sculley, along with the majority of the board, saw the future in the company differently, and wanted to move in a more commercially viable direction, selling computers that were less remarkable but did pay the bills. This meant cutting off funding for Jobs' passion projects and removing him from the day-to-day operations of the company entirely, something that Jobs did not take well. Given that he was the founder, he obviously still had a huge shareholding in the company at the time, but in protest to his removal, he sold all but one of his shares in Apple Computers. We will get to why he kept that last share shortly. But now, Jobs was out on his own and looking for a new project to make his eccentric impression on. Fortunately, he found this with a little offshoot of Lucasfilm. The computer graphics team under Lucasfilm had separated out into their own independent company, with the ambition of one day being able to make a movie entirely on a computer, which was a radical concept at the time, but something that intrigued the cashed-up Jobs, who was fired partially for dedicating too much time to overly ambitious projects like this one. The problem with this idea is that it simply wasn't feasible with the technology at the time. This meant that significant investment was required to keep the company afloat until such a time where computer technology caught up enough to make full digital animation possible. This waiting game led to Jobs slowly investing over $50 million into the company while they developed hardware to make this dream a reality. Their most commercially viable product was the Pixar image computer, which was a cutting-edge and hugely expensive machine that was actually used more for medical image processing rather than making anything creative or entertaining. Unfortunately, given that these machines cost the equivalent of $500,000 at the time, only about 300 were ever sold, which was enough to keep the business functioning, but additional money was needed to keep up intense research and development. This money was happily supplied by Jobs, partially because he saw it as a good investment, and partially as a personal vendetta against Apple, that lacked the same type of visionary long-term outlook on technology. How much of this investment is out of spite is really up to you to decide. But remember how Jobs kept one single Apple share? Well, that was so he could attend the annual shareholder meetings and cause a fuss. So it's fair to say that this wasn't all savvy investing. Despite any personal motives though, it still did prove to be a great decision. By the mid-90s, Jobs controlled a majority of Pixar, right as computers caught up enough to produce the company's very first film, the massively successful Toy Story. The company went on to produce a series of massively successful movies while working closely alongside Walt Disney Pictures, which would eventually offer to buy up the company for $7.4 billion in 2006. This purchase was not paid in cash, however, but rather Disney stock. And this transaction made Jobs the largest shareholder in Disney at the time, but also bestowed upon him the title of Billionaire. Now, anybody who has been paying any kind of attention to the movie industry in the past few decades will know that Disney has been wildly successful, buying up a host of franchises including Star Wars, which was technically the original birthplace of Pixar. I would say it's the circle of life, but they own that too. Now, Jobs, of course, was famously rehired by Apple as CEO when the company was mere weeks away from going completely bankrupt, only to guide the company once again to amazing new heights with the introduction of products iPod, iPad, and of course, the iPhone. He was rewarded for his success with share bonuses that were worth billions in their own right, but upon his death in 2011, his Disney shares still massively outvalued his Apple shares. Either way, it could have been worse. He could have sold a 33% stake in Apple for $800, but maybe that money wouldn't have made him happier anyway. After all, money doesn't buy happiness, right? Or maybe it does. Go watch our video on the relationship between income and happiness for the definitive answer to this age-old question. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to keep learning how money works.